So hello everybody, thank you for joining us today. We've had a little break. I'm here in the studio with Jack.
Hi everybody.
So it's good. I don't really know what way to...
No, this could end up being a bloopers podcast that we put out for activists, but we'll see how it goes.
We have another little guest with us today.
Yeah, she's got a tiny pair of earphones on her head here ready.
Yeah, she looks pretty cool, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does, yeah.
Little activist Ava. So we've my newest baby in. She's 6 weeks. She's quiet at the moment because she's sleeping, but you might hear some strange little noises in the background. And she's here with us today. We thought we'd come in, check in, say hello. I'm checking in with Jack and all the crew here anyway to see how they're getting on. And we have been busy putting plans in place for our next round of episodes of Activist Lawyer. We've loads of exciting guests coming up. Jack has been working away behind the scenes. We've so much going on with students who've been contributing blog posts to us and really setting up a really great network of practitioners, activists, and so you might fill us in a little bit more on that, Jack.
Yeah, so we were doing a pre-recording here before we started actually recording, and Ava's fallen asleep, so I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. But yeah, no, so Sarah's obviously back with baby Ava for one recording so far. But yeah, we've missed you. Welcome back, yeah.
You say you missed me, but I haven't left you alone.
No.
It's like I'm obsessed. Jack, what about this? Jack,
I know.
have you seen this? Per Jack is tortured.
I
I said today I'm going to, so I was in yesterday just about our immigration side of things and a little bit about Activist Lawyer. But I said from tomorrow I am going to sit at home, watch daytime TV.
Yeah, finish a couple of series on Netflix or something.
Oh, I need to get, the trash is coming thick and fast. I just started The Hills New Beginning. So anyway, we'll not talk about that here. It's not quite appropriate.
Ooh, you could do like a review of trash
I would
TV
like that, a new podcast on my trash TV findings. But aside from that, we've also been looking into various issues that are relevant for this podcast. And one thing that I want to speak to you about, Jack, is you have been busy you're always busy doing something or other alongside work and all of those activities. Your dissertation.
Yes.
Which is relevant to this podcast, I think. And I absolutely think it's just a fantastic topic. I don't know if you can share a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously it's on the back of my last dissertation that I done for my undergrad degree. It was how institutional discrimination affects the mental health of the LGBTQ community. So that was a really good dissertation to get done. And now I've gone again, so I've my dissertation to hand in as my last part of my master's, and that'll be me done then with my master's. Thank God. But yeah, no, so I can talk a wee bit about it. I think. So the title of it is God a political player in Stormont, and then so religion's influence on laws surrounding abortion, same-sex marriage. So I'm going to talk about how people's belief within the population of Northern Ireland and within those who work in Stormont, how it influences legislation around specific topic areas. So it'll be good, and it's very relevant.
Very relevant and very interesting and very different, you know. And I know, you've come out with some really good findings that we look forward to hearing more about whenever you have it actually completed. But you've lots to work with in this part of the world. So
I know.
You're perfectly placed. And I suppose if you were anywhere else, you wouldn't be doing it. And living here, you actually, I suppose, experience, what's happening on the ground when it comes to the crossover between religion and politics here. And of course, are you covering education too?
Covering education as well, yeah. And it's weird because obviously doing assignments from a master's, you're looking at legislation and you're looking at change in the past. Yeah. But like when I log on to Twitter or BBC News or something now, I see articles that are specifically about my dissertation that are changing as we speak. Every couple of days you see a new article about something that is changing around education or abortion. So it's constantly changing. So it'll be weird to keep up. I could write something one day and then it'll be changed by the next week. So I'll have to get the balance right. But it's something that I wanted to write because obviously, except for education here, nothing really affects me personally, but I see that it affects other people. Exactly. And that's what I thought to do a bit of justice, I thought I wanted to speak about those issues that affect other people in Northern Ireland, except for me.
Yeah.
So I thought it was important to get it down. So we'll see.
It's a really live issue, especially around, I'm really interested in the whole integration of education piece here.
Yeah.
And I noticed last week there was a report in Northern Ireland that 70% of people interviewed said that they would opt, I suppose these are parents and adults, that they would opt for an integrated education system. I know even President Higgins had commented in the past few months, that was the crucial starting point for Northern Ireland, to get things back on track and to kind of create and complement the community as it is now, such a mixed community. There are no longer just, Protestants and Catholics. And so I think that in itself is a really interesting one. And, it'd be great to have someone on here as well to speak about,
definitely,
how that's going. But back to the podcast, and I hope everyone enjoyed our last session. I really did. I thought Phil Scraton was absolutely fantastic. We really enjoyed speaking with him, and we hope to get, quite a high profile guest speaker on each session that we do. But really, we had huge feedback from some of our practitioners legal practitioners who gave really sound, solid, practical advice. So the feedback we've been getting in from people who follow us and listen has been really around, being inspired by hearing their stories and their journeys to how they, started off in college, worked their way up, and now work in, whether it's immigration, human rights, in criminal justice. So that's really been, eye-opening to see the amount of feedback we've had who, young people who've been
young
inspired.
people was the main one, where you've been getting even messages when you're
absolutely.
You've been getting messages from young people saying how inspired they've been listening to these solicitors or practitioners going from where they are right now and then seeing where they've ended up, and that basically gives them this kind of pathway to follow of exactly where they want to be in the future, and they've been inspired by this podcast, which is great to hear.
It is great, and it's great that we had people on like Karen Berkeley and Stephen Kerwin who were able to talk about cases that they're currently working on, So we'll obviously check in with them again to see how they're getting on. I know there were some ECJ referrals around immigration matters that we're really interested in here, around free movement, and also just about our own work on immigration. I suppose we're still busy here working on a lot of Irish citizenship cases. We're looking at delays as an issue because they're ongoing. We've some clients that are 3 years, so we're thinking about proceedings around those types of cases. And we've some really interesting ones too. People who are applying based on ancestry.
Yes,
but kind of outside the box and outside the norm. So we've made a number of submissions working with really fantastic barristers in the Republic of Ireland around mostly British people who are seeking to establish, their Irish citizenship. So we'll keep you informed of those cases as they tick along as well, because they're interesting. But just Jack, what have you been looking at in terms of some themes around podcasts and blogging as well? I know you've been writing a wee bit around themes that you've been interested in for Activist Lawyer.
Yeah, so I was just looking at current news over the last couple of weeks, and I thought I'd throw some at you to see your thoughts.
Throw them at me.
Yeah.
No, I might not. I've only had my 4th cup of coffee this morning.
You've been watching pure trash TV, so I don't know if you've been keeping up to...
I'm a disgrace.
No, but so I was just looking at, there was a couple of articles going about in the last couple of weeks about the stop and search powers in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously following on the back of this time last year where George Floyd was such a big controversial issue. So a lot of campaigners now have come out criticising the UK government for allowing the search and stop powers to be kept in. So so under the Police Crime and Sentencing and Courts Bill, the government wants to introduce serious violence reduction orders, which would make it easier for police to check people who have been convicted of carrying a knife. So it basically comes away from you're allowed to stop and search if you have a suspicion that some violence is going to happen, and it's kind of removing that. So people are criticising, and they've based it off a lot of statistics. So a report came out into race equality in Manchester police and found that black people in the region were 5.3 times more likely to have been stopped and searched than their white counterparts. So then you could say, maybe is that because crime in the black communities is significantly higher than in the white communities. But then they did further research and found that despite this, black people's search were only marginally more likely to be found carrying anything illegal, with 27.5% of searches on black people resulting in an arrest, and that is in comparison to 25.9% of people for white people. So it's not comparative. So yeah, that's
big. It's funny, when I was getting ready to come in this morning, I was listening to, I think it's called FYI. It's a children's news program on Sky.
Okay.
My 7-year-old watches it. Some of it's probably a little bit advanced, but this part, it was about knife crime, and Boris was actually, I didn't know you were going to cover this today, but Boris was actually, Boris, as if I know him, Boris Johnson was commenting on these changes. And there were real life, like the victims of knife crime and their families were on speaking about it.
Yeah.
But they briefly touched on this. So, I mean, that's a huge change.
Yeah, so there's
huge restrictions there, but those figures are very, very interesting.
Yeah, so there's calls from many human rights solicitors to remove all suspicionless stop and search, because it can lead to discrimination, and that's what they want to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, it's very heavy-handed, and I suppose it's not tackling the root of the problem in any way, and that's what campaigners want. That's where they want to start. It's looking at why this is happening, why it's on the increase. What can we do to prevent it? And this programme in particular was talking about preventative measures with young people, and it's down to education. Poverty is obviously one of the main issues here in areas like Greater Manchester, where a lot of these statistics are based. So yes, I mean, that's a huge matter to grapple with.
Yeah, and then one that's very relevant right now is Freedom Day. So when you were off,
did Freedom Day happen? I don't know.
There was actually Freedom Day, but then there was actually protests about COVID restrictions on Freedom Day.
When was that? July the 19th?
July the 19th. So I don't know if it was.
It kind of came and went, didn't it?
Came and went, and I don't really know if it should have been called Freedom Day, because it's
it's just cringe.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's talk in the legal world now about because it's Freedom Day, and does that remove some restrictions from employers to keep their employees safe? With all of the, obviously, when we're in here in the podcast, there's a lot of stuff that the businesses put in place to keep the employees safe. Does that remove that onus on the employer to remove it? Can they remove them to keep their employees safe because it's Freedom Day? And then so I've seen now with the double vaccinated, for people who are double vaccinated, who aren't double vaccinated, can they enter nightclubs? So there's a lot of talk from, I see Lord Sumption has started saying that you can't tell people who aren't double vaccinated that they can't enter a nightclub, and whether the courts will now have to step in, because they've kind of let the government do what they want over the last couple of years with COVID, and they've been reluctant to step in. So now they're saying that if they are starting to bring in these restrictions, that the courts will actually have to step in. Okay,
so we're going to see a lot of that now. Yeah. But on that topic, and we're looking at Ireland as well. I mean, anybody planning to go to the Republic of Ireland at the moment, there's the issue around the passport, the vaccination passport that you have to show if you want to eat indoors, and, the discrimination apparently around that. And some businesses are refusing even to open indoors if they have an indoor area because it's of that fact. But we will see a lot of challenges to this as well, and it's only now that people, I suppose it's business by business, isn't it? And it'll depend on, the ethos of particular businesses, whether you're a multinational corporate business. I know a neighbour of mine works with Google in Dublin. None of them are back to work yet, and are in the office, or Microsoft, one of the bigger companies, they're not back. They're all still working from home. Everybody's doing it on a kind of a case by case basis, depending on the nature of the company. But it will be one to watch, and I think it's going to cause, no matter what you believe in, whether you're pro-vaccination, whatever it might be, a huge amount of controversy. And significant legal challenges. So I think it's a really interesting space that we'll keep open here, just to see what's going on in terms of the legal side of any of these developments. But of course, employers and I know here at Granite, in our firm, Granite Legal Services, we have an employment solicitor here as well who's been dealing with, these queries from various businesses. So there is a lot of confusion there as well from business owners, managers, HR departments as well. So we'll see how that plays
It'll
out.
definitely raise a couple
Freedom
of issues.
Day was just
No, it wasn't.
the wrong.
No, it wasn't.
And sure, they rolled back on it. Like you could see them 2 days before it. It was almost like, well, but masks will be mandatory on public transport, or they should be, or, so typical true to form Boris Johnson.
Mixed messages coming out, and it leaves people questioning what is happening. If the people at the top don't know exactly what's happening, how are we supposed to know? So these questions that are being raised, but it'll raise some issues now in the next couple of years, we'll see.
It will. It's very, very interesting to see how things play out with that. And then, of course, I haven't been talking to you. I'm not going to sit and talk to you about the Euros because I kind of was over that whole thing very quickly.
I watched it every day.
You loved it, did you?
Yeah, it was good.
Well, I watched the final with, obviously, I did Italian in college and I lived in Italy for a while, so I always support Italy if Ireland are playing. But it was hard to watch England, go out. But just on that topic, I just was talking about the crowds and it was opened up, on a massive scale. COVID had just gone out the window. Restrictions had gone out the window completely. But I'm not sure that the numbers have spiked as much as they thought. One issue that I was actually talking about on Radio Ulster recently was pregnant women and the vaccine. And sadly, there seems to be a huge increase of seriously ill pregnant women, and I'm just speaking from Northern Ireland, but I'm sure it's across the UK, who were not vaccinated and had to go in, they're hospitalised now. So I spoke to, I was on talking about this issue because I was told by my midwives at the time that I couldn't get the vaccine while pregnant. After I had the baby, I was told, no, you still can't get it because you're breastfeeding the baby. And it was very matter of fact. So I was just left, when you've just had a new baby, you're very confused. COVID's on the rise. That was only 6 weeks ago. And I know the messaging has changed now. And it's very direct that women should be getting the vaccine if they're pregnant or breastfeeding, because it's worse to get COVID, as we can see. So again, those messages are changing by the day, by the hour, really. So it's hard to keep up with, but it was an interesting debate, and we had some other speakers on with us who were chatting about their experience as well, and it really depended on your healthcare provider. So I was quite unfortunate that I got no advice, and really the wrong advice, because at that stage it had changed. But I have my first jab now, so sorted. Very almost good. 50% sorted. So
and that's the confusion, and I can understand that there is confusion because it's such a weird situation that we're in, but it leaves people vulnerable to not knowing what the right thing is to do, and then it raises even more questions. But it's a tough one, but I think we'll cover some of that in our next few episodes. So we've scheduled quite a few, and we're trying to get, I suppose, a range of issues and a range of diverse speakers. We look forward to having Maurice Hutchinson, who is one of the directors of JMK Solicitors, and she's going to come on to talk about personal injury matters involving minor settlements and lots of activism that she's been carrying out and her colleagues over the past few years. So it's something different for us. It's not an area I'm familiar with at all, but I'm really keen to have Maurice in to speak to us about it. The expert in to tell you exactly what it's about. The expert will be here. And we also had Megan Burns, who she's done a recording recently, who did something, and again, a topic that I know about. I don't think a lot of people have. But she's done something really interesting. She's looking at cryptocurrency and activism around it. So I have heard a little bit of that, and I look forward to hearing all of it. But that's another interesting topic, and I suppose it feeds into us trying to get more speakers in about law and tech, isn't it, Jack? It was a great podcast. And I know a lot of people that will be listening won't have a clue what cryptocurrency was before, and even if they did, how it linked to activism. But I think that's such a great thing. Law and technology is taking off. So it's something different, and I really look forward to sharing that. And we also have a few practitioners again lined up, Northern Ireland based, Republic of Ireland and the UK. And we've some people working on international projects as well that we hope can join us. So lots to look forward to. Fantastic. This baby just... See, as soon as I said that, she just jumped out of the skin. Sorry, I won't even pretend you're here. Look at you. I was just going to say, she's been well behaved. We are that boring that she's fast asleep. Yeah, our big Nuri voices. I know. No. Anyway, so anything else you want to fill us in on, Jack? No, there's just been I just want to give a shout out to all of the like young people and students, including myself, because I'm still a student. I'm trying to hold on to that as long as possible. Yeah, that have been liking and sharing all of our posts on social media and submitting blogs for our website. We just want to thank you so much, and we hope that all of the guests that we bring on, I get inspired by them, and I think that's so important for when we bring guests on, that if I feel like I'm inspired, I know that other people will be inspired. So it's a great opportunity to listen to some experts in so many different fields.
And we've lots to read through. We've so many submissions that we need to kind of take the time to go through them. So apologies for any delay in that.
Yeah.
And people coming up with really innovative ideas for projects that they're working on, or like you, Jack, doing dissertations, etc., and happy to share that with us. So it's really fantastic. And we have some exciting plans for the year ahead,
some ideas
that we will be sharing with our listeners very, very soon. I just want to sit here and talk more, but it gets me out of the house doing washing, I don't know, other baby mother stuff that I should be doing. I'd rather be in here. Well, she can be with me drinking coffee. I think we've got sausage rolls waiting for us.
I think so, yeah. I think Jessica's doing her sausage rolls.
So on that note, we will say goodbye.
Yeah.
And we hope you enjoy listening to the next session of Activist Lawyer. Please get in touch with us if you've any ideas, if you want to come on the show, or any names of people that you think might be interested. We're always happy to hear.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for listening, and we have some great guests coming up, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Bye.
This podcast was recorded in Granite Podcast Studio. Interested in starting up your own podcast but don't know how? Granite Podcast Studio can help. Record your podcast in our state-of-the-art studio, which is based in the heart of Newry City. Our studio has cutting-edge and user-friendly technology and can seat up to 4 people. We also provide an editing service for our team, using your guidance and editing notes to provide you with a flawless finished product, leaving your listeners wanting more. For more information on how you can get started, visit www.granitepodcaststudio.com.